We will start the regular press conference by Minister IWAYA. Minister, thank you for joining us. At the outset, I have 3 points. First of all, on the occasion of the upper house election, as the ruling party, I accept that the Japanese people have given us an extremely harsh judgment. I acknowledge that we must take this result very seriously and with humility. At the same time, as we face numerous challenges in Japan and outside the country, politics must not stay stagnant. I will focus entirely on what we have to do for our country and the population, and I will fulfill my responsibility as the foreign minister. The second point is from Ecuador. Her Excellency Ms. Sommerfeld, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Human Mobility of the Republic of Ecuador, will visit Japan from the 22nd through 25th of July. As the guest of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan has more than 100 years of diplomatic relationship with Ecuador, and we are important partners sharing common values and principles. In order to further strengthen our relationship with Ecuador, tomorrow we will hold the foreign ministers' meeting and have a working dinner and discuss our bilateral relationship and regional and international affairs. My third point is regarding Japan-EU foreign ministerial talks. From the EU, Ms. Callas, the High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, is visiting Japan together with President Costa of the European Council and President von der Leyen of the European Commission, who will attend the 30th Japan-EU Summit. Tomorrow, I will have a meeting with High Representative Callas and plan to discuss Japan-EU relationship and regional affairs, such as the situation in the Indo-Pacific. That is it from myself. Thank you.
Please raise your hand if you have a question, and when you're called, please come close to the microphone and state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Sakaguchi-san from Kyodo Press. Sakaguchi from Kyodo Press. Thank you for taking my question. I have my question with regards to the upper house elections. So the LDP has lost a majority in both houses of parliament, and the foundation has become very vulnerable, and I think you will lose weight in terms of your negotiations. Tariff negotiations are currently underway, and members of the LDP are calling for Mr. Ishiba to step down. Any impact of the outcome of the elections on the tariff negotiations? And before Mr. Ishiba became Prime Minister, when there were complaints from the members of the parliament and also from the citizens, I think he was very popular in raising those voices, but through these elections, it seems that he is not garnering enough support. But the fact that Mr. Ishiba is remaining in his leadership role, how do you view that, and how do you intend for him to take his responsibility? Yes, as I mentioned at the outset, as for the outcome of the elections, it has been quite a harsh judgment for the ruling parties. We must take the results humbly and with humility, and must draw lessons from the results. In the meantime, there are numerous challenges in and outside of Japan. Immediately, we must take decisions on many of these challenges. The security environment surrounding a country is very challenging and more complex than ever. there are also numerous challenges in diplomatic affairs as well. Stagnation of diplomacy and national security must not happen. For diplomacy, I don't think this needs to be reiterated, but stability and continuity is a must. The situation is so challenging that even the ruling parties alone will not be able to address. And by bringing all the opposition parties together will be difficult. And therefore, since we are facing such a challenging situation, we must collaborate across party lines to address the challenging times in a united manner for the interests of the Japanese people. Now, with regards to tariff negotiations, Minister Akazawa has traveled to the United States, and taking into account what we have achieved so far, we are committed to achieve an agreement that is beneficial for both Japan and the United States. Secretary Bessent, that came to Japan the other day, has stated that good agreement for both parties is achievable, and that achievement is still within reach. This is indeed a national crisis, but in order to overcome the situation, the entire government will be united in supporting the negotiations. And as I said at the outset, the results of the elections have been very harsh, and therefore it is common sense that there are differing views in Japan amongst the citizens. But we need to carefully take the voices of the local organizations and the Diet members in order to have good discussions and have deep discussions. In the meantime, what is extremely important is for us to prevent the political deadlock at this juncture, to ensure that we serve in a responsible manner to the nation and to the citizens of Japan. And therefore, going forward and going back, both will entail difficulties and challenges, but for the sake of the nation and for our citizens, we need to pave the way forward. Next question.
Mr. Azahari, Pan Orient News.
Azahari, Pan Orient News. My question is about Syria. Israel began bombing Syria just hours after the former regime Assad fall, and continued to strike Syrian military infrastructure with recent bombing targeting the presidential palace and the defense ministry and others. These bombings, along with the invasions and occupation of new Syrian territories, occur despite Syria not initiating any hostilities against Israel. So my question is, by not openly condemning Israel and instead only expressing wishes for a ceasefire, wishes that Israel ignores all the time, can we say that Japan is inadvertently encouraging Israel to continue its aggression against against Syria, and threatening the foundation of peace and security in the Middle East and even in the world? Thank you.
Recently, as was mentioned in the statement by the press secretary on July the 19th, and of course, this was mentioned together with the judgment as the minister myself, Japan is deeply concerned about the deterioration, the serious deterioration of the situation in Syria following the outbreak of violence in the southern region and the combat, including Israel strikes. Japan calls for the steady implementation of the ceasefire agreement between the relevant parties and strongly urges all parties concerned, including Israel, to exercise the utmost restraint. Japan appreciates the U.S. and other relevant countries for their efforts towards the resolution of the situation. At the same time, Japan urges all parties concerned to maintain territorial integrity of Syria and its national unity, as well as to respect Syria's independence and sovereignty. Japan appreciates the Syrian government's engagement in dialogue towards an inclusive political solution and national reconciliation. Japan calls for all parties concerned to continue playing constructive roles in realizing a peaceful and stable transition in Syria.
田所さん from 毎日新聞。田所 from 毎日新聞。Related to the earlier question by Kyodo, going forward is also a challenge, but stepping back is also a challenge. But you have decided to go forward. In terms of the national policy challenges for Japan, you have highlighted tariff negotiations is a challenge. But for you, do you think that the major challenge is indeed tariff negotiations? Well, of course, negotiations with the United States on tariff matters is high-stakes negotiation for the national interest. And since we are engaged in such negotiations, if there are instabilities in Japan, that will not serve as a positive to the negotiations. And therefore, we need to make sure that we maintain the regime in engaging with those negotiations. There are other diplomatic challenges underway. I will not highlight each one of them, but resolving those international diplomatic issues and addressing them, showing that the political foundation of Japan is vulnerable to be seen in that way from the outside is not positive for Japan. And therefore, we will take the harsh judgment made by the Japanese people, but at the same time, we'll open our minds to talk openly with the opposition parties as well. When it comes to foreign affairs, it is important for us to be standing in the same playing field, and therefore taking approach in that way is something that we must make sure we conduct.
Next question, Satomi-san, Asahi Shimbun newspaper. Satomi, Asahi Shimbun. Based on what was just discussed, there will be the Japan-EU summit, which you also mentioned at the outset. Japan and the EU share fundamental positions like democracy and rule of law, so I understand the importance. Can you once again tell us about the meaning and the importance of strengthening the cooperation, and what do you want to communicate the EU in particular on this occasion? And regarding security and economy, how exactly would you want to deepen the relationship? Thank you very much. Regarding the situation across the world in the recent time, as you have just mentioned, it is important to have a closer cooperation with the EU, whom we share values and principles are important more than ever. And I must say that on this occasion, the Japan-EU summit is going to be extremely timely. In terms of our relationship with Japan and the EU, it is important for us to maintain our commitment to a global governance, multilateralism, and international order based on the rule of law. And therefore, we would like to send out a message, and I'm sure that we will send out such messages. In terms of security, based on the Japan-EU Security Defense Partnership announced last November, we will affirm to strengthen our cooperation dialogue in the areas of security, even further. In Europe and the Indo-Pacific, the security of the two regions are inseparable. In a certain sense, they are continuous and linked. On the side of Europe, there is such an awareness and recognition that are shared between ourselves, and therefore the security in the Indo-Pacific, I hope that EU will continue to maintain its commitment. And therefore, we look forward to various corporations for that purpose, and those will be discussed. In terms of the economy, the free and fair trade order is turbulent, and therefore we must maintain and strengthen a free and fair economic order based on stable and predictable rules. And the cooperation with Europe is important and indispensable. In terms of the area of economic security, we wish to make this an opportunity to deepen our discussions of further cooperation.
Miyano-san from Chugoku Shimbun. Miyano from Chugoku Shimbun, thank you for taking my question. The United Nations has established an independent scientific panel to examine the impact of nuclear war. What is the point in recommending Dr. Tomonaga Masao as a panel member? And what kind of discussions do you expect from the panel? And how does the Japanese government plan to support the panel? The UN panel, an independent scientific panel to examine the impact of nuclear war. Dr. Tomonaga Masao, Emeritus Director of the Japan Red Cross Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Hospital, has been appointed. He has been serving to provide medicine for the Hibakusha, the A-bomb victims. And he himself is a A-bomb victim, and therefore I believe that the Japanese government believes that it is relevant to have him appointed as a member of the panel, and therefore the Japanese government has recommended him. The panel is tasked with examining the physical effects and social consequences of nuclear war and their impacts on public health, global socio-economic system, agriculture, and ecosystems. And I understand that they will be submitting the final report at the 82nd General Assembly in 2027, examining the impact of the use of nuclear weapons from a scientific perspective to facilitate accurate understanding is the starting point to achieve a world without nuclear weapons. And therefore, I look forward to meaningful results.
Next question, Mr. Kuriyama, Yomiuri Shimbun newspaper. Kuriyama, Yomiuri Shimbun. Minister, you mentioned about the foundation of the administration. If the cabinet is unstable, and then in terms of tariff negotiations and diplomacy, will Ishiba administration be recognized as a sufficient partner? And would other countries take advantage of Japan? Indeed, as you have mentioned, the negotiation is extremely difficult and important, and the negotiation is ongoing, and therefore we have to make sure that we would not be taken advantage of. In that regard, there are various opinions inside the political party, which I think is only natural. But in that sense, now is the time that we have to unite and be in solidarity. And by the solidarity of the ruling party alone will not allow us to manage the parliamentary affairs going forward. And I have to call on the opposition parties to be humble and to concede and to join in the discussion. We must reach a wide-ranging agreement and deal with all other extensive challenges that we are facing. Regarding the tariffs negotiations, I am not going to make any premature comment about how it might be concluded. But depending on the outcome, we will have to ask for the understanding of the Japanese Parliament. In order to ask for the agreement by the Japanese Parliament, in the Diet, we must make our efforts in order to shape agreement in extensive areas. We will do our utmost faithfully in order to reach agreement as much as possible.
坂口さん、共同通信。Related question. Earlier, Minister, you said that stagnation of the parliament should not happen. For the Prime Minister to remain in the position could lead to stagnation of parliament. Some people say that. What is your view on that? The ruling party, unfortunately, has lost majority in both houses of parliament. And assuming if there is a new president of the LDP, we cannot be confident that that person will be elected as the Prime Minister. That is the difficulty of the situation that we are facing, and therefore this is no longer about extending the life of Shiba administration. It is more about how to rebuild Japan facing so many challenges. For the time being, the current setup will be maintained, and we will negotiate with talks with the opposition parties in order to pave the way forward for Japan, and that will be for Japan and for the Japanese people.
Thank you very much. This will be the end of the press meeting. Thank you very much.